Right now, at this very moment, someone far weaker than you is winning. Not because they're better, not because they're smarter, but because they project certainty with the force of a weapon. They move through the world with unshakable posture, with a voice that never trembles, with eyes that never dart away. They speak as if the universe owes them space, and the world predictably bows. Meanwhile, you hesitate. You over-evaluate, over-explain, and over-apologize. You wait for the perfect moment, the perfect alignment, the perfect feeling. And while you wait, someone else takes what was meant for you. Confidence is not a personality trait. It is a form of power, a sharpened blade. And if you refuse to wield it, someone else will gladly use theirs to cut ahead of you. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. The bold rise, even when they lack skill. The hesitant fall, even when they have genius burning inside them. Because power does not belong to the best. Power belongs to the most certain. This is not a motivational sermon. This is a turning point, a psychological recalibration, a reclamation of control. You are here to learn how to eliminate hesitation, speak with the weight of a ruler, and move like a man accustomed to obedience, not approval. Watch carefully. Because from this moment forward, your weakness will no longer be tolerated. It will be hunted, exposed, and replaced. Understand something painful, for you were not born weak. You were trained into weakness, through repetition, through social reward, through systems designed to punish dominance and reward compliance. You were conditioned to obey, to seek approval, to whisper instead of command. The voice inside your head, the one that hesitates, apologizes, flinches, that is not your true self. That is the inner servant you inherited. And if you do not destroy him, he will destroy your future. Machiavelli never whispered. He never sought comfort or understanding. He acted and forced the world to understand afterward. He didn't request power. He seized it because he understood the eternal law. For those who ask for power are admitting they are unworthy of it. Your transformation begins with inversion. Each time you want to shrink, you expand. Each time you want to justify, you pause and let silence suffocate the room. Each time you feel the urge to apologize, you stare instead. Dangerous confidence is not born from readiness. It is born from defiance, doing what your inner servant would never dare to do. You walk faster. You take up space. You stop nodding. You stop cushioning your tone. You speak like your words are final, not optional. Confidence is not a mindset. It is an identity, and identities are forged through repeated rebellion. Not rebellion against the world, rebellion against the version of you that still kneels. So remember your first rule, or if it makes you small, kill it. Thoughts, habits, people, kill them. If it causes hesitation, confront it. If it drains your strength, reject it. If it tries to make you liked, laugh at it. The world tells men to be kind, polite, agreeable. But here is the Machiavellian truth. But nice men are instruments. Used, discarded, forgotten. Powerful men are not nice. They are precise, measured, deliberate, controlled. They move with intention, not approval. And it all begins with the execution of that small voice inside you that still begs to be accepted. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You need only one thing, the willingness to become feared, not by others, but by the weak version of yourself you are about to bury. Because once the servant dies, the ruler finally wakes up. Powerful men never arrive with noise. They arrive with gravity. Not through their words, but through their silence. Not through their volume, but through their stillness, their controlled breathing, the unshakable weight in their stare. A powerful man doesn't need to be known. He doesn't need to be liked. He simply needs the atmosphere to shift when he steps inside. The air changes before he speaks. People adjust themselves without knowing why. That is not charisma. That is dominion. This is how a man moves when he owns the room, not because someone told him he does, but because he carries himself like he always has. Machiavelli understood this well. In the royal courts, the true rulers weren't always the kings adorned with crowns. Sometimes it was the quiet man at the edge of the hall, the one who barely spoke. But when he finally opened his mouth, the entire room leaned forward as if pulled by a string. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is control. You think talking makes you dominant. It doesn't. Talking makes you readable, predictable, easy to map. The quiet man is the threat, not because of what he says, but because no one knows the shape of his thoughts. When you walk into a room, you don't seek permission. You don't scan for acceptance. You observe. You calculate. You let others rush to perform their insecurities while you remain anchored in your center. Your posture speaks first. Your presence arrives before your words do. You move slowly, not from hesitation, but from mastery. Predators don't sprint without purpose. They move with patience, because the strike is only one moment. Control is everything before it. Most people don't realize how fast they talk, or how fast they move, or how often they interrupt. Are all symptoms of a soul begging to be approved, or a mind still trapped beneath someone else's judgment. But when you walk in like the room already belongs to you, where you don't speak to impress, you speak to decide. Your sentences carry weight. Your words land like conclusions, not suggestions. And slowly, people begin to listen differently. Not because you demand it, but because their instincts tell them to. They don't challenge you. They calibrate themselves to you. And when others speak, you remain still. You let them reveal their hunger, their fear, their insecurity. The one who speaks first always exposes the part of themselves they're trying to protect. And once you see that, influence becomes effortless. You don't chase energy, you generate gravity. Because confidence at its highest form is not about appearing strong. It is about making others doubt their own footing, simply by standing next to you. So you carry yourself like you've already won. Not with arrogance, but with the quiet certainty of someone who doesn't need to compete, because he has already chosen himself. If they respect you, good. If they don't, better. Indifference to approval is the final evolution of power. And if the room wasn't yours when you entered, by the time you walk out, people will remember it as if it always was. Not because you demanded respect, but because you never needed to. Words are not sounds, they are weapons, and most men use them like dull blades, timid, uncertain, apologetic. You can spot these men immediately, where their sentences rise like questions, where their laughter leaks insecurity, where their every phrase is padded with, think maybe, I'm not sure. As if they're begging the world to forgive them for speaking at all. That is not communication. That is self-erasure. Machiavelli understood a truth. Most men never learn. Power isn't in the words themselves. It's in the delivery, the tone, the stillness behind the tone, the certainty that wraps each sentence in steel. When you speak as though you cannot be denied, people stop analyzing your logic. They surrender to the force of your conviction. Humans don't follow truth. They follow confidence. They follow the voice that sounds like it already knows. Hesitate, and you lose the room. Speak with finality, and the room adjusts to you. So, what does a Machiavellian voice sound like? It's slow. It's calm. It's final. You speak as if every sentence is a decree, not an idea. You sound like someone who expects obedience, but not someone hoping for approval. Even in a room full of experts. If you speak like a decision, they'll treat you like one. That is the first rule. Sound like the end of the discussion, not the beginning of it. And here's the secret: men with real power know you don't earn respect by talking more. You earn it by talking less. The more you say, the more you reveal. The more you reveal, the easier you are to challenge. Power lives in restraint. So when you speak, eliminate softness. No filler, no apologies, no escape hatches like "Beer, I could be wrong. Beer, I'm not sure if this makes sense. Beer, I'm just saying." Burn all of that. Say what you mean. End the sentence. And let the silence after your words intimidate the room. Because silence after strength is not emptiness. It's a challenge. A dare. A question no one wants to answer. Most will avoid confronting you, not because they fear your argument, but because they fear what else you might unleash. Understand this. Your tone is your true message. Words are just the wrapping. Your calm, grounded, deliberate voice tells people exactly where you stand in the invisible hierarchy of the room. If you want to rise, lower your pitch, slow your tempo, strip away nervous energy, sound like a man who has nothing to prove, and everything under control. Sound like a man who has already made his decision and expects the world to follow. You don't win conversations by being louder. You win them by speaking in a way that makes your words feel like law, not suggestions, not ideas. They're not opinions, they're facts. This is how rulers speak, how generals deliver commands, how kings in exile speak moments before reclaiming the throne that was stolen from them. And when someone challenges you, you do not defend. You redirect. No arguing, no explaining, no justifying. Just say, "I disagree," or the even colder blade, "That's incorrect." Then move forward as if their objection never existed. Because when you refuse to debate, you project something far more terrifying than dominance. You send the message that your reality is not up for negotiation. That is how you control a room without raising your voice. Confidence isn't noise, it's gravity, the invisible weight behind your words, the silent assumption that when you speak, others should stop and recalibrate themselves to you. When you speak, the room should feel it, not through aggression, but through absolute certainty. You're not trying to be right. You're speaking like a man who cannot be wrong. You're not trying to be understood. You're speaking like someone who knows the world will eventually align with him. That is power. And from this moment forward, this is how you speak. BR, or you remain silent. Because confidence without control is decoration. You can stand tall. BR, move deliberately. BR, speak like a leader. BR, but if someone can still trigger you with a single sentence, "But you aren't powerful, you're exposed." This is where most men collapse. They master body language. They master tone. But their emotions still belong to anyone who knows how to press the right buttons. A small insult and they flare up. A compliment and they lose composure. A moment of silence and they crumble internally. You are not free until you win the invisible war. Bar the war inside your own mind. And that requires rebuilding your identity from the ground up. Machiavelli saw this in every court of power. He never feared enemies. Enemies are predictable. What he feared was dependency, BR, emotional or otherwise. Affection can be fabricated. Praise can be weaponized. But control is undeniable. Because once people learn what stirs you, they learn where to press. And once they learn where to press, you stop being dangerous. You become manageable, and manageable men are disposed of the moment they stop being useful. So here is your transformation where you cease being the man who reacts. You become the man who calculates. Someone insults you. You don't defend. You observe. You extract information. What are they aiming for? What are they revealing about themselves? Someone praises you. You don't soften. You analyze. Why now? What angle are they approaching from? What future move does this compliment prepare for? Someone ignores you. You don't shrink. You become colder, quieter, heavier. Silence becomes a weapon, not a wound. This is what it means to become psychologically unreachable. Not emotionless, but unshakable. You feel everything, beer, but you respond only when it serves your outcome. When someone tests you, you do not flinch. You reveal no discomfort. Why? Because your mind is not a public marketplace. It is a fortress, and you choose who enters. This is how manipulation ends, not with resistance, but with untouchability. Most men are so easy to bend, it's almost comedic. Whisper that they're not enough, and they'll spill their entire soul trying to justify their existence. Tell them they're extraordinary, and they'll orbit around you like a dying planet chasing a sun that isn't even looking back. Withdraw your warmth for a moment, and they'll scramble for it, as if oxygen has suddenly become scarce. But understand this, that isn't power. That's conditioning. That is a software glitch in the human psyche, predictable, exploitable, programmable, and until you erase the virus inside yourself, you will be nothing more than someone else's puppet on an invisible string. So how do you break the code? You kill the obsession with being understood. That is the root infection. The compulsion to explain yourself, to be recognized, to be validated, to be seen. It's the hook that makes you controllable. Burn it. Salt the ashes. You are not here to be interpreted. You are here to move through the world like a silent force. Deliberate, surgical, unfazed. Then you kill the fear of rejection. A Machiavellian mind does not audition for acceptance. It decides who gets access. You never wait to be invited. You make others uneasy at the thought of losing proximity to you. And you kill the reflex to react emotionally. Emotions are real, but irrelevant unless used strategically. You're angry? Fuel. Insulted? Leverage. Doubted? Silence now, domination later. This is how men of substance are built, not robotic, undeniable, because once no one can move you emotionally, the world can only watch you move with precision and dread what you might do next. Let others chase peace and understanding. You chase clarity and control. Because the world doesn't respond to feelings. It responds to presence, certainty, gravity. And when your identity becomes unshakable, you become dangerous. Not for your volume, not for your violence, but for your unreachability. People will try to pull you. They will praise you, ignore you, provoke you, tempt you. But nothing lands, nothing shifts you. You remain cold, consistent, calculated. Eventually they stop trying to manipulate you because they collide with a terrifying realization. You are the one person who cannot be moved. This is the final transformation. Not posture, not tone, not appearance, but identity. You no longer bend around the world bends around you. You shape the room, you define the terms, you determine the ending, and you need nothing from anyone, because you finally belong to no one. That is what makes you untouchable. Rejection wounds the weak. To the powerful, rejection is data, a strategic message from the universe. It means you are too accessible, too obvious, too eager. Good. Now you know what part of yourself must die. Understand deeply. Rejection is never personal. It is positional. People reject what they assume they can live without. If they walked away, it means they believed the loss was survivable. That's not an insult. That's intelligence. Now you know their rank, and yours. Which means the next move is yours. Step 1. Never show injury. Pain displayed is victory granted. Not to them, but to the story others tell about you. A Machiavellian mind does not flinch when a door closes. It lets the air grow colder. You were not rejected. They were disqualified. Rejection only exists when you acknowledge it. So do not react. Evolve. Step 2. Withdraw your presence like a weapon. When something taken for granted disappears, its value slams into the senses. That is what you become. A sudden void with consequences. No explanations. No emotional closure. Just a clean disappearance. And while they feel the absence, you build in silence. Machiavelli said, "Men should be either treated generously or destroyed, for they take revenge for small injuries, but cannot for great ones. So don't injure them. Don't retaliate. Make them irrelevant. Let your silence become heavier than your words. Let them wonder where you went, how far you've risen, and whether they ever truly had access to you at all. Most men are so simple to influence that it borders on tragic comedy. Tell them they're inadequate, and they'll pour out explanations like a broken faucet, desperate to patch the leak. Tell them they're exceptional, and they'll sprint after you as if their entire worth depends on your approval. Withdraw emotionally, and they'll crawl back, begging to reconnect, terrified of being shut out. But don't mistake this reaction for genuine power. This isn't dominance. This is programming, predictable behavior, running on ancient emotional software. And until you rewrite the code inside yourself, you will always be someone else's instrument, a tool in a game you don't even realize you're playing. So how do you rewire? You begin by killing the need to be understood. This is the core virus, the compulsion to justify, to be seen, to be validated. It is the root of all manipulation. If someone can make you explain yourself, they already own a part of you. Burn that need to ashes. You were not built to be interpreted by the world. You were built to move through it, strategically, surgically, silently. Then you kill the fear of rejection. A Machiavellian mind never chases acceptance. It controls access. You don't wait for invitations. You make others uneasy at the thought of losing proximity to you. Let them wonder what happens when they can no longer reach you. Let that uncertainty become your leverage, and then you kill the habit of reacting emotionally. Emotions matter, but only when weaponized. Anger becomes fuel. Insults become leverage. Doubt becomes strategic silence. This is how powerful men are forged. They aren't robotic. They are undeniable. Because once no one can move you emotionally, their only option is to watch your movements, with equal parts admiration and fear. Let others chase peace, harmony, and understanding. You chase clarity, precision, and control. The world doesn't bend to feelings. It bends to presence, direction, and gravity. When your identity stops shaking under pressure, you become dangerous, not because you are loud, not because you are violent, but because you are unreachable. People will test you, they will flatter you, ignore you, tempt you, challenge you. None of it lands, none of it shifts you. You remain still, cold, calm, calculated. Eventually they stop trying to manipulate you because they face a truth that unsettles them. You cannot be moved. This is the final evolution, not a change in posture or tone, but a complete reconstruction of identity. You no longer take shape from the world around you. You shape the world around you. You define the rules. You determine the outcomes. And you need nothing from anyone, because you finally belong to no one. That is what makes you untouchable. Rejection devastates the weak. But to the powerful, rejection is pure intelligence, a message, a signal, a reminder that you were too available, too visible, too easy to reach. Good. Now you know what must be dismantled. Remember, rejection is not personal, it is positional. People reject what they assume they can survive without. If someone walked away, it's because they believed the loss was manageable. That is not humiliation. That is information. Now you know their level. Now you know yours, which means the next move belongs to you. Step 1, never show pain. Pain displayed is control surrendered, not to them, but to your own legend. A Machiavellian mind doesn't panic when a door closes. It lets the room grow colder. You weren't rejected, they were disqualified. Rejection becomes real only when you acknowledge it. So you don't react. You evolve. Step 2. Withdraw your presence like a weapon. When something taken for granted disappears, its value becomes impossible to ignore. That is the power of absence. Disappear without explanation, no closure, no emotional farewell. Just a silent void where you once stood. And while they feel the emptiness, you build yourself into something stronger. Machiavelli said, "Men should be treated generously or destroyed. because they take revenge for small injuries, but cannot for those too severe. So don't injure them, don't retaliate, just make them irrelevant. Let your silence drown out their assumptions. Let them wonder how far you've gone, Burr, and whether they ever truly knew you at all.